You know how I go. Fresh from this all of justice. Real rhyming.
Hey, how y'all doing? Welcome to Three Count Commentary. This is your boy Mongo Slade. All right, today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about storytelling. So I'm gonna use David Mamet's questions. So he's a screenwriter. He wrote some pretty famous movies. You can Google him if you want. I'm not gonna go run down the guy's resume, but he wrote like this really famous memo on screenwriting. And with his screenwriting, he talked about you have to answer a certain amount of questions in a movie. And these questions are pretty good questions, pretty good guides for you to look at when you're talking about storytelling in general. So we're going to look at Kofimania and why this resonated with so many people. So Kofimania was, of course, a big deal where Kofi Kingston won the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 35. So it was a really big deal. So I'm going to use David Mamet's questions and also basic story structure, which some of it comes from Joseph Campbell. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, Joseph Campbell? Like, storytelling is not linear, right? It's not, there's no hard and fast rules that you must follow in order for the story to be any good. But it's always good for people to have guideposts, right? For people to know certain things and to be able to follow along what's going on. Because some people cannot follow or they hate non-linear storytelling. Non-linear storytelling would be like Pulp Fiction, where Pulp Fiction doesn't start at the beginning. The opening scenes of Pulp Fiction are not the very beginning of the movie. They don't take place in linear fashion. The movie jumps back and forth between timelines and different things like that. Some people don't like non-linear storytelling. Animes do this sometimes where they have non-linear storytelling, but most animes that people really get into, they follow basic story structure that's probably laid out in Joseph Campbell, and then sometimes they're even cardboard cutouts of each other, like Jujutsu Kaisen, where you have kid has magical powers, or he runs into a stranger who knows all about these magical powers, tells him all about it. Kid joins a special school, and then he feuds with another school of all these other people who have magical powers, and he learns more about the magical powers, learns more about himself, etc., etc. That's every fucking anime out there. That's Jujutsu Kaisen, that's Bleach, that's Naruto, that's fucking Dragon Ball, that's My Hero Academia, that's Yu Yu Hakusho, even except for there's not a separate school of magic students, and Yu Yu Hakusho is just demons. But generally speaking, that's the story structure. Is you look at different animes, they follow a basic story structure, and basic story structure is common sense, and this is something that people can follow. So we're gonna go through story structure. We're also gonna go through Mamet's questions, and I'm gonna try to do this for individual runs so that people can get an idea of, storytelling when it's done right in wrestling. So, basic story structure. So basic story structure is 3 acts. The act 1 is your opportunity, what Joseph Campbell calls the call. The heroic call is, it's time for you to go out to do something. In the Bible, Jesus tells Moses to get his people out of Egypt. So that's the call. You get the message from the Grand Wizard or the message from whoever, and it's an opportunity. If you've ever seen the movie Shazam, it's based off the comic book character Shazam, where Billy Batson goes into the subway and he runs into this wizard named Shazam, and he's given the speech about what all the things that he needs to do and all this stuff, and all he has to do is say Shazam, and he says Shazam, and he becomes Shazam, right? You see it in Iron Man, where Iron Man is trapped in the cave, and all of a sudden this evil guy is telling Tony Stark, you have to build this machine, or I'm going to kill you, so you need to build this machine. So the guy gives Tony Stark all these parts, and Tony instead builds the Iron Man armor, which he uses to save himself. You see this in Batman, where you see Batman, or was it Batman Begins, where he decides that he's going to fight crime in Gotham, and he's got all of a sudden, so he goes and trains in Tibet or whatever. He meets Ra's al Ghul, and he gets trained by the League of Shadows to be a ninja, and then he comes back to Gotham as Batman. or to be Batman rather. So you see the call everywhere, and this is where you set your hero, and it's where you set up your world. You do it all in Act 1. You establish who the hero is, what their goals are, yada yada yada. In Act 1, Act 2, you introduce the allies and you introduce the enemies. So this is where you would say, okay, well, if you're going to use Shazam, you're going to say, okay, Shazam. You meet Shazam's, you see Billy Batson's family. You're going to meet his family. You also may meet Black Adam or whoever he's going to fight in this part of the movie. You'll run into them there. In the second, again, it's non-linear. You may meet the villain first. We don't know. It depends on how you put the story together. But you also, this is where you put your obstacles. What is the problems that must be solved? Because the hero has to solve some kind of problem. So the problem can be introduced in Act 1, usually with the call, because the hero sees a problem that needs to be fixed, and he gets the whisper in his ear that this problem needs to be fixed, and he needs to go and do something about it. So there needs to be obstacles in the way, something that's preventing him from doing what he needs to do. Then also the stakes have to be raised. So, he's winning, and then the hero, the villains start to cheat. They start to, play unfair. Then the stakes go up. Now, if you're thinking about it from the perspective of Batman v Superman, when they kidnapped Lois Lane, I believe it was, and he was gonna, that horrible Lex Luthor kidnapped Lois Lane, and he's got her hidden somewhere in the city or whatever. And he's talking about killing her if if Batman doesn't kill Superman, or however he had it. I don't remember that movie that well. But then obviously the villain wins. The villain always win the first run. The villain gets over. They make the hero look bad. The hero fails. And sometimes they will call it the death. Because in some stories, especially in religious stories, the hero dies and then is reborn. Or they barely survive death. I'm trying to think of a good example of that, but I'm pretty sure other than Jesus, because that's the number one thing you can go to. You can go to Osiris as well, because Osiris was killed and his body was chopped up, and then his body parts are spread all over Egypt and all over I'm pretty sure it was all over Egypt, and ISIS had to go and put his body back together and all that type of stuff, right? So then Act 3 is the ending act, is where you rebound from your defeat. You learn some lessons. What did you learn from being beaten the first time? And then you apply those lessons into your facing of the enemy the second time, and then you overcome. And therefore you fix the problem. You win. You get the girl. So that's basic act A, B, C story structure. So then we get into the Mammoth questions. So the Mammoth questions are pretty simple. What is your desires? What are your obstacles? What are the stakes? And why now? Okay, so let's go through Kofimania. So Kofimania is, we already know the world, and we already established the world, right? We know it's WWE, the WWE Universe. Kofi Kingston is a middling, long-time veteran, journeyman who has been in this position. He's been a member of New Day. He's been tag team champion, top guy for a little bit of while time, but he's never been a WWE champion. So we all looking at this story. We come into the story. Everybody knows who Kofi is. Everybody knows who the world is. We don't need to reestablish the world, but we do need to get an opportunity. And the opportunity comes with Kofi Kingston getting put into this gauntlet match because Mustafa Ali got taken out of it. So Mustafa Ali gets injured. He's out. And then Kofi Kingston gets the call. He has to work this gauntlet. Kofi Kingston gets in the gauntlet and astonishes everybody. Really gets over. And, then we start to see that, oh, okay, Kofi is kind of the guy. So it starts to swell a little bit. Everybody's now interested. There are some people who are pro Kofi. There are people who are against Kofi. And you start getting, people falling into camps. Around this time, you start seeing Vince McMahon come on screen. And, of course, Daniel Bryan is an obstacle. Vince McMahon is an obstacle. The Elimination Chamber is an obstacle. The Gauntlet is an obstacle. All this stuff, right? So he has to navigate all of these different things, and he fails. You know, he lost at the Elimination Chamber. You know, it was for the WWE Championship. He lost. So, you know, he died in video game terms. He died, and he wanted to come back. He wanted another chance, a singles match for the WWE title, and because he's never had a singles match for the title. And so we get into the third act of the story, where Vince McMahon is like, I don't see why I need to give you a singles match. He has to earn another singles. He had to earn the singles match. And that comes through maybe he has to win another gauntlet, or New Day has to win a gauntlet, which led to that great storyline where the Usos backed out for him and helped him go forward to WrestleMania. And then, of course, he gets the match at WrestleMania and he wins, right? So that's basic story structure, and this is why so many people are so interested in it, is because it followed basic story structure, where Act 1 was already set because we already know who Kofi Kingston is. We already know who he is as a hero. We already know who he is as a man. We already know who he is as a character. But now he's being a lot more vocal. He's telling us his desires. And this is where we get into the mammoth questions. So number one is desire. What do you want? What does Kofi Kingston want? Now, Kofi Kingston wants a shot at the WWE Championship. He doesn't necessarily want the belt, right? He wants the championship. He wants a shot at it because he's never had a singles match for the title before, right? So at first, he never had a shot at all, right? Now he's kind of like, all right, after Elimination Chamber, it becomes, I never had a singles match for the title. And then you start hearing his desire. He starts talking about the 11 years he worked in the WWE, how he never took a day off. He never got sick. He never got tired. He's there every day smiling, putting smiles on faces, selling t-shirts, being the man. You see his desire. You see that his work ethic. He tells you everything you need to know in order to get you excited for what he's about to do. Number two, the obstacles. Who is in his way? Number one is Daniel Bryan. He's the WWE champion. Obviously, he's going to be in the way. But there's other obstacles as well. Vince McMahon is an obstacle, right? Vince doesn't believe that Kofi is a star. Doesn't believe that Kofi Kingston can do it. I believe his exact words were, you're a Hall of Famer, but only as a member of New Day. He basically called him a B-plus player, right? This is similar because Daniel Bryan was actually pretty good as a antagonist in this situation because he had went through that. You know, remember Daniel Bryan was always considered a B-plus player too. And so now you have Vince, he's putting these obstacles in his way. Vince is creating the gauntlets, you know, that you have to win this gauntlet in order to get this title match. Vince is the one who created the Elimination Chamber match. And you know, Kofi has to win that match and win the title. So you see Vince as the primary antagonist here because he's trying to hold Kofi down. And he has the ability to do so. And he's very, very important, you know, because the champion himself is always an obstacle, but you raise the stakes when it's not just the champion. When it seems like it's the entire company who doesn't want you to be the champion. The entire company that's sort of like, okay, we recognize all of your hard work and everything that you've done, but you're not world champion material. You're not championship material. We're just not going to do that. You know, that's a different level of obstacle. That is you overcoming not just the champion who is the top guy in the business, but you're overcoming perception. You have to overcome the perception of not just the company, but of the audience, of the opponent, of everybody else. Right? It's different. It's a completely different thing. And by Vince McMahon putting himself in that position and basically saying, look, you're not the guy. We're not going to do that. It took Kofi to the next level. Not just because Vince is really good at what he does, but because of what Vince represents. You know, people can easily see Vince McMahon in a boardroom saying that Kofi Kingston will never be the WWE champion. He's not fit to do it. And for him to say it on TV makes sense. And people believed it. That's another reason why it worked so much. It's because people believed that Vince believed it. That Vince was telling him the truth standing there in that ring. Like, you're not a Hall of Famer by yourself, only as a member of New Day. You know, you had a good career, you had a good run, but, you know, no more. I can't do anything else for you. I don't think you're championship material. You know. So then we have number 3, stakes. You have to raise the stakes. So what do? We have to take out Kofi Kingston, right? We're going to take him out. He lost that Elimination Chamber. We don't see why he needs to get another title shot. Now we're going to boot him somewhere else. And the New Day is like, come on. It's about hope for them. It's about goodwill. It's about what the New Day represent. The power of positivity. They don't complain, right? They man up. They stand up. They say, no, we don't back down. We're going to keep going forward. We're going to keep doing this. There has to be some way that we can get Kofi into this match. And this is where we get the big tag team gauntlet, and that the New Day, Big E and Xavier Woods ended up winning. And then number 4, the raising of the stakes is also what happens if they don't. What happens if they fail? That's what raising the stakes mean. It's like the question is, if you don't get it, what's going to happen? Now this is where the story kind of gets a little weak, because if he didn't get the title shot, what was going to happen? Nothing. Like nothing. He doesn't lose anything because he didn't get the title shot. But there was so much hope and goodwill and energy around Kofi Kingston that it really would have been damaging to the brand if he didn't get the title shot. Now, I hate to put it that way, but it's probably a little bit of racial stuff that, you're definitely going to have the whole company is racist if Kofi doesn't get the title, that kind of thing. But outside of that, nothing in particular would have harmed Kofi if he didn't get a title shot. But usually there has to be an either or situation, like just a life or death situation. I have to do this, or I'm going to die, or other people are going to be hurt, or something is going to happen. But in this situation, it wasn't like he had to lose or win or get fired or something like that, right? So it wasn't that dire. So 3 is a little weak, but it is something there, because it is there is stakes involved in this, because he's gonna have to fight to get one last shot. So number 4 is why now? Why was it so important that Kofi Kingston gets this title shot right now? And I have to say that this one's a little weak too, but it makes a lot of sense why he had to do it right now. Number 1 is WrestleMania. WrestleMania only comes around once a year. The WWE, and which Vince McMahon represents, is all about WrestleMania moments, and it's all about making magic at WrestleMania. It's an engorged audience. More people watching at WrestleMania than ever watching it before. You want to give them something special. You want to give them something different. You want to give them something new. You want to give them something fresh. Kofi Kingston is all of that because he's never been in this position before. So that's really what makes this timing so important, because you got the call. Mustafa Ali got injured. Kofi is never going to be more over than he is right now, right? He's never going to be more beloved. People are never going to be as behind him as they are right now. So the timing was right. The timing was perfect, because now you've got WrestleMania on the horizon, and it's all about magic. It's basically like Disney. It's all about magic. It's they're cashing in all of their chips when it comes to the New Day on this situation here, on Kofi Kingston winning the title. And it only happens once a year. So if Kofi doesn't wrestle at this WrestleMania, who knows, he might not make it to the next one. So, and who knows where he would be and what kind of situation he would be in when the next one came around. So it was very, very important that he got in that match at WrestleMania this particular year, because Mustafa Ali was hurt and he had gotten really, really over, and he was really, really, people were really, really behind him, and everything seemed natural and everything seemed perfect. Everything set in place. And then when he won the title, the roof went off the building, and then things went downhill right after he won the title. But it wasn't his fault. The story of him getting there was the important thing. Right? The story of him crossing the finish line was the important thing. Like, nobody ever asks what kind of relationship Princess Peach and Mario have. You play the game to save Princess Peach, not for them to live happily ever after and for things to go perfectly afterwards. This is where wrestling differs from other movies and other types of TV shows where you get that catharsis and then it continues because Kofi showed up on Monday and then he shows up on Friday and then he shows up and shows up and shows up and then people start to critique his stance as champion. But the important thing was you look at the story. The story was there. It was solid. It was rock solid as far as great desires, relatable desires, believable characters, and believable positions. It was the right time, right place, right time, right players, right time. Everything lined up correct. It was one of the better written. To be quite honest, you couldn't have written it because it was written for somebody else. So you couldn't write this. It was serendipity. It was like a miracle. And that's really what made people resonate with it so much. And if you talk to people today, even people who don't like Kofi Kingston, it's like a miracle that this happened because it seemed like how everything just came together so fortuitously, like Kofi. Like, wow, they didn't have any real opponent for Daniel Bryan anyway. And then, there was no top guys for Daniel Bryan to wrestle anyway. Mustafa Ali, who they was going to try to make a star, got injured just before, his big run. So it seemed like everything just molded into place. Nobody expected that Kofi would get so much support from the gauntlet and that he would get, that much, intrigue in what he was doing. He seemed to hit, at the right time. He was in the right zone at the right time. His intensity was right. Character was right. Verbal skills were right. Everything just worked perfectly at this particular time. And that's why Kofimania works. And that's why it's probably one of the last great stories in wrestling. It was really a fantastic story. And because they put it together, they took the time to put that thing together fairly decently. And because they didn't have a lot of time to fuck it up, they didn't really fuck it up. They kind of overdid it with the gauntlets maybe. There was, some other stuff that they probably could have left out and some things they could have done better, of course. But if you look at basic story structure and answering Mamet's questions, they did a really good job, especially on the desire and the obstacles. Because those are the things that really get people behind you. If you can verbalize what you want, what you need, and people can see and they believe in your obstacles, you'll get over, for sure. And they did. And the reason why, a lot of other people can't get over is because they don't believe in the obstacles. I said this about the Roman Reigns and the Royal Rumble 2015. Like, they did a good job of putting obstacles in the way. They did a good job of setting up everything, and putting everything in its proper place and putting that story together. Is just that they had a problem with the believability. Nobody believed it. Nobody believed that Vince McMahon really didn't want Roman Reigns to be the champion. When they did this in 2016 with Roman and Vince, it worked in Philadelphia, but it didn't work anywhere else because nobody truly believed that Vince McMahon didn't want Roman Reigns to be the champion. But people did believe. People really did believe that, the company did not want Kofi Kingston to be the champion. And they also, similarly, they believed when the Daniel Bryan situation. They believed that the company wants to screw Daniel Bryan. They don't want to put Daniel Bryan in the main event. And if you get people, especially people who are smart, in order to buy into it and to take what you're saying as a literal fact, and as you're shooting out there, then you're winning. You're winning. But that's about it. Let me know what you guys think, and maybe give me some ideas for a different storyline that I can go into. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for your time. Spread the hashtag 3Con Commentaries and spread the good word of 3Con Commentaries. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.
Yeah.